So, in The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon spinoff, things have gotten pretty wild with all these new kinds of walkers showing up. The usual walkers were dangerous and all, but over time, the survivors figured out how to handle them. But just when you think they've got it all under control, boom, they introduced these crazy new walker variants. And let me tell you, these things are a whole different level of freaky. It's like, wait, what? How are they even made and what can they actually do? I mean, shore walkers have always been the big threat since day one, but now it's like the game has changed. With these variants, the survivors are facing some serious challenges again. It's like the writers were like, okay, let's shake things up and make them sweat a little more. These new types of walkers have definitely spiced up the show, but they've also left us with some pretty big questions like what's really going on with the virus and how the heck are these things even possible? Now, I'm not saying everything's crystal clear because there are definitely some plot holes that'll make you scratch your head, but despite that, Daryl's spinoff has really doubled down on these new walkers. They were a huge deal in season 1, and now in season 2, they're even more important. It's like the show's leaning into this whole mutated walker thing, making it a key part of where the story is headed. And yeah, these variants are super cool. But let's be real, a lot of us are still kind of confused about how they work and why they even exist. Luckily, Daryl and crew are slowly giving us some answers, just not all of them yet. So here's the thing, the show has made it pretty clear that this character, Jeanette, is behind these new walkers, like she's the mastermind of the operation. She didn't create every single variant, but her experiments have been a big deal in turning regular walkers into these upgraded monsters with all kinds of wild abilities. Daryl spinoff also dropped some cool flashbacks showing how the outbreak went down in France and basically confirming that the Walker virus actually started there. So, yeah, no wonder Jeanette and her team have some next level knowledge about the virus. They've been dealing with it way longer than anyone else. Jeanette's team, called Povir, has been experimenting like crazy to make stronger, better walkers. They didn't nail it on the first try, obviously, lots of trial and error, but season 1 made it pretty clear they're onto something. Daryl and Quinn had to fight off a bunch of these modified walkers, so yeah, Povir's definitely made some progress, even if they aren't responsible for every variant out there. They've whipped up a bunch in France, and it looks like we're gonna see even more as the show goes on. Now, let's talk ethics for a second. Creating these Walker variants? Definitely sketchy, but you gotta hand it to Povir, they've been pretty effective. For some weird reason, they're obsessed with American walkers, like they actually go out of their way to grab walkers from the US and ship them over to France. Why? Who knows? But it seems like there's something special about American walkers that makes them better for whatever experiments Jeanette's cooking up. Maybe it's the DNA or some other secret sauce. But French walkers just don't cut it for their plans, apparently. In season 1, we saw one of these walkers get injected with this mystery substance, and bam, it immediately started to change. Then in season 2, we learned they can even inject the stuff into dead humans before they turn. It's all pretty wild, and while we don't have all the details on how it works, we know it's messing with the walkers' behavior in a big way. Some of them started attacking each other, which is not something we've seen before. So yeah, it's a messy but effective process, and clearly Povere is onto something big. These variants aren't all the same though. We've seen different types pop up in other Walking Dead shows, but the ones in Daryl Dixon are some of the most interesting. Like, remember the burners? They're the walkers with acidic blood, and when Daryl tangled with one, it left a gnarly burn on his skin. Not something you see every day, right? Then there are the strong walkers. These dudes are basically roided up versions of the usual walkers. They're way more aggressive and unpredictable, even attacking each other sometimes. Jeanette seems to have a soft spot for these ones, and she's probably building a whole army of them to take on El Union. Oh, and we haven't even gotten to the glowing walkers yet. We saw them in the season 2 trailer, and yeah, we don't really know what they can do yet, but they look super ominous. Maybe they're connected to those grassy looking walkers or the ones with rocks stuck to them from the ones who live. Either way, it seems like the glowing ones are a whole new flavor of creepy that we haven't fully explored yet. And yeah, these variants aren't just a Daryl Dixon thing. They've shown up in The Walking Dead season 11 too. It's a bit weird though, because like if all the variants are being made in France, how did they end up in the US? Well, it turns out Jeanette's been making trips across the ocean, probably to snag more American walkers. So it's possible some of these variants hitched a ride back to the US with her crew. It's still a little fuzzy, but it seems like Povere has been setting up shop in America, which might explain the variant boom over there. Despite how awesome these new walkers are, there's one thing that doesn't quite add up in Daryl Dixon. They make it seem like Jeanette and her team are the ones responsible for creating all these variants, but World Beyond threw a wrench in that by showing they've been around since pretty much the start of the apocalypse. There's even a video from Dr. Jenner talking about them. So it seems like these new types of walkers have been a thing in France way before Jeanette started messing with them. Hopefully, Daryl Dixon will clear that up soon, or it's going to keep bugging us. So, yeah, while these variants are a super fun addition to the show, there's still a lot we don't know about them. Here's hoping Daryl and the crew will fill in the gaps soon, because I'm eager to know what's really going on. But anyway, yeah, I'll see you in the next one.